Yeah.
All right.
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress. All right. I'll play the intro and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Okay. Cool.
Welcome into the 304 podcast, guys, here on Facebook. I am your host, Sam the Man, with my good buddy Marcus Dean. What is up, my good man?
Hey, what is going on, Facebook, YouTube? Welcome into the 304 podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe us here. We'd certainly appreciate that. Yeah, click that little button and click the notifications so let you know when we go live.
Guys, we had the Big 12 press day. I think it was yesterday.
Yep, Big 12 Media Days. Very interesting stuff.
We wanted to go over West Virginia's Neil Brown and what he had to say. So we're going to bring the video in. We're just going to commentate over it and around it. We'll pause it when we want to. And we're going to listen to kind of what Neil had to say during the press conference. So hang in and watch it. If you haven't seen it, it was actually a really good press conference. He's a very good talker. He knows exactly what to say in all courses of action. But without further ado, we're going to get this thing rolling. Let's add this in here. Let's add this in here. All right, Marcus, you ready, buddy?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, first, this was his introduction for West Virginia.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. Proud to represent West Virginia University in the great state of West Virginia. I want to welcome Commissioner Yermark to the Big 12. It's a crazy time in college football, as everybody in this stadium knows, and feel really confident about the leadership of our conference moving forward. I want to take a quick second and just...
That's an understatement. I think they have the best commissioner, the best hire they've ever had. So.
Absolutely. I mean, because the commissioner comes from working for Jay-Z, so I thought that was kind of interesting myself.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard him described as ice cold, so yeah, that might be the saving grace for the Big 12.
And his famous line, "We're open for business."
Make a note of who we have here representing our program: defensive lineman Dante Steele, cornerback Charles Woods. Neat experience from him because this is home for him, so he's able to come home. Offensive lineman Zach Frazier and wide receiver Bryce Ford Wheaton. And then our champion for life is wide receiver Sam James, who's also
well, they took the right ones with them.
It's officially football season. We're 50 days away from the backyard brawl, the return of the backyard brawl, 19 days until we have our first practice. It's been a productive offseason. Staff adjustments on offense, highlighted by the addition of offensive coordinator Graham Harrell, has been very beneficial. We remade our roster to mirror the type of football team that we want to be, and that gives us best opportunity.
Now, they did remake the roster, but they were kind of encouraged due to the portal to remake. Now, granted, I think they did a really good job, and I think it actually provided them with opportunities to maybe trim the fat.
Exactly, and also too, I think about it talks about what he just said there, getting, like you said, trim the fat, but and also getting the players who want to be at West Virginia, who want to do good, and who want to build a program.
Well, and with all the realignment talk going on, that's going to be very important for the non-blue bloods, is to get these kids that want to be there.
Exactly.
Opportunity to win in this league. We've had 33 additions to our roster since January.
33.
Our work ethic, our leadership, and our team chemistry are much improved and experiencing great success on the recruiting trail. Quick kind of preview offensively, we return our top 7 offensive linemen, 2 receivers, 2 of our top receivers, and Sam James and Bryce Ford.
It is good, but I'm still skeptical of the offensive line coach.
Yeah,
Matt Moore. He's not. I thought he should have been gone after last season.
Yeah.
this will kind of be the season. If the line struggles this year, when you have that many returning starters, then he has to go, right?
Right. And you got great players such as Wyatt Mullum. You got and Doug Nestor. You got the center there, Zach Frazier, who are three components. I mean, you should be having, a solid offensive line. I mean, you're going to need a good offensive line to protect the injury-prone JT Daniels.
Yep.
Wheaton, 2 experienced tight ends, and then we've got a competition at the quarterback position that I'm sure that you all want to talk about.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Defensively, a lot of experience returning on our defensive line, like the athleticism of our linebackers with X-Ray Lowe and Lance Dixon, huge addition to Lee Koba. It's going to be a difference maker there. At corner, I like the group we have. Charles Woods, we've had some experience at through the transfer portal as well, and experience at safety, and then special teams.
Well, and that's the thing. They've added a whole new back end.
Yeah.
You hope that it's good. You know what I mean?
Hope, that was the entire back end left in the transfer portal. I mean, you don't have a choice. You hope for it to be good. And I'm surprised he hasn't mentioned anything about the defensive line yet.
I mean, honestly, that if there is a weak spot on West Virginia, it's gonna. I mean, they were weak there last year. It's not like they lost. They lost a couple of good players, but they didn't lose any great players.
Right.
So you hope that these guys that came in or can at least do the job.
Exactly.
Teams-wise, return Casey Legg, who's preseason all-conference, add a kickoff specialist that'll compete for our field goal job as well, and Parker Grodhouse, and our punting job's open. So play a tough schedule. It's been well documented. 2 non-conference games, 2 rivalry games that are both on the road, 11 Power 5 opponents, and then a great schedule here in the Big 12. And so it's going to be a challenge for us. We think this is.
I mean, that was his introduction. I think. I mean, he had all the highlights. I think it's going to be a very tumultuous season. They do have a very hard schedule.
Yeah.
Those out of conference games. Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh.
I mean, those are going to be tough. I mean, like we talked earlier on previous broadcasts, the Pitt game and the Pitt and the Virginia Tech game is going to set the tone for West Virginia in their season. I hate to bring this up so soon, and we're less than 50 days away from the season. West Virginia has to win one of those games to be relevant this year. They have to beat Pitt, or they have to beat Virginia Tech. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. They have to beat one of those teams. And I don't want to use this phrase, but I'm going to go ahead and use it anyway. If they go 0 for 2 in that spot against Virginia Tech and Pitt, that they don't win either one of those games, I can see Neil Brown's seat getting a little bit warm in Morgantown.
I mean, and I agree with that totally. I think the fans will turn against him if he loses both of those games. Yeah. Knowing that you still got to beat Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. You never beat Oklahoma. You've never beat Texas Tech. Like there's a couple of teams he's never beat, and you lost the 2. If he would only win 2 games this year and he beat Virginia Tech and Pittsburgh, Mountaineer Nation would be pretty happy.
Yeah, they would save him for one season. That would get him a pass for a season.
Well, he talks about the defense now, and here's his comments on the defense as it is now in comparison to past defenses.
This defensive unit has the opportunity to be the best that we fielded so far. We're never going to lose what makes West Virginia special, and that's a toughness. We really try to mirror the mindset of our state. And in West Virginia, it's a blue-collar group that goes to work, and it's really proud of their heritage. And that's the same fundamentals that we're trying to look for and trying to put on the field on the defensive side of the ball every Saturday. I like our group. It's a group that has had unique paths. If you look at a guy like Lee Koba, who's came in spring ball, who will be our starting Mike linebacker, not a traditional path, but here he is, and we think he's got a chance to be one of the better linebackers in our league. You look at Charles Woods, who's representing us today, FCS All-American that made the jump to Power 5 football and had the leading coverage numbers in our league, according to PFF data. last year. So we're a group that's going to be tough, physical. I like the pieces that we've added. I think through the portal on defense, what we were looking to add is guys that were experienced and that were selfless, that could be great teammates, and we've done that. And I think the collection of players that we're going to have, our whole is going to be maybe better than each individual.
Okay.
Well, that was interesting. Me and you talked a lot about the defensive players that left and what the issue was there. And I think if you read between the lines there, we're being kind of told that some of these guys just weren't maybe team players, so to speak.
They were maybe all out for themselves.
Maybe a little too me. Yeah. And that, it's nice to think that they've replaced those guys with guys that'll be team players.
Exactly.
Win, lose, or draw. You can like a team that cares about each other and plays as a team.
Right.
And eventually that will turn into success.
It will. Absolutely. I mean, because it's going to, he's typically, this is year 4 for Neil Brown. So this is his players, no doubt. He's recruited, and you start to see the fruits of the labor of a new coach in year 4 to 5. If you don't see growth or anything worthwhile in year 4 to 5, then you're starting to look for a different coach.
Yep, I agree. Now he's going to talk about offensive coordinator Graham Harrell, and then bleed over into the offense and what actually changed on their offense.
Hopefully he's not calling plays.
Now, here's what Graham's brought is –
hope not.
He's brought a different energy about him. He's confident without being arrogant. He's extremely humble. It helps that he was a great player in this league. I think that
he was a great player at
players'
Texas Tech.
attention on your current roster, but also in recruiting. He's had great success at not only USC, but at North Texas as well. He's been able to have success with different types of players in different types of offenses. And so I'm excited what he can bring. He's been a great staff member. And so, I think we're going to see the benefits. And the biggest for me is he's got a great feel on game day. And so that's something that I think is going to be a huge positive, and it'll be not only for our players, but for me, great feel on game day. So I'm looking forward to it. We basically put everything that we have in the spring.
Hopefully he don't call plays and let Graham Harrell call the plays.
Well, and I'm sure that's going to be part. He's going to have to let it go. I mean,
yeah, because we've seen it over the last several years, him calling plays and the other offensive coordinator they had. So it's just it wasn't a good situation. Now, I'm glad they finally brought in a traditional offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I
hate to say this.
It can't hurt anything. It can't hurt anything.
No. But I hate to say this, if West Virginia doesn't produce this year, that he just hire his replacement.
And that is, and that's the thing, Mountaineer Nation might not want to think about that, but that's very true. Because Neil Brown was touted as an offensive genius, and he's been really anything but. He's done good defensively, but the offense has been suspect since he came in. So, that's a possibility. He could have hired his replacement. It's possible.
I hate to say this because I like Neil Brown compared to this other person I'm about to mention. He kind of reminds me a lot of Justin Fuente from Virginia Tech.
I can see that a little bit.
All of this offensive paralysis, the quarterback whisperer, the offensive guru, and as Virginia Tech fans, you didn't see that except for one season, maybe 2 at tops, and that was it. And those were playing with all of Frank Bremer's players. And now Holgerson's, he's got all of Holgerson's players out, and these are his players now, and we're going to see the fruits of our labor.
And that's kind of, from a schematic standpoint, in part of the reason why I felt like Graham was the best fit for us at West Virginia is schematically, we don't anticipate being a whole lot different. Where we're going to be different is in our preparation, in our practice habits, and in our ability to probably be more prepared going into each and every game. But from a schematic standpoint, everything that we're going to do, we installed in spring ball. We've been repping them all summer, and we'll use the fall camp practice schedule to refine those even more. But what we're going to run, we've had put in. I think.
So they're not holding anything back.
No. I mean, they need to. They need to. I hate to use this phrase. They need to go balls to the wall this year.
Well, and I hope schematically, we see more than we've seen in the past.
Yeah.
There's some, a lot of it was suspect play calling. But, hopefully Graham Harrell has a better handle on changing up schemes and giving them different looks. And
exactly.
Because I felt like we were short on that before.
Yeah.
Now, and the next part, he talks about time management and NIL.
Well, he takes lessons on time management.
An era now where there's a lot of pulls on our players' times, and the ability to manage time, not only for the student athletes, for staff, for myself, gets harder and harder. And I'm for name, image, likeness. I think I said this in this exact same chair here a year ago. We've got to figure out some guardrails on it where we can still help student athletes, but it's not necessarily used as an inducement. But that is,
good comment.
A lot of our preparation for our players is about time management, because we feel like the thing that everybody has the same is the same amount of time. And how you manage that is a real differential in the success of each individual. And so with name, image, and likeness, that's been a huge part of what we're doing with the character development piece of our fifth quarter program. Well, it's an important rivalry.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like, he's got a good head about NIL, probably more so than a lot of programs actually have.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, because, we've talked about this a bunch. There has to be some type of governing body with this whole NIL stuff. You just can't run the Wild Wild West. I mean, and when we have kids out there getting, $8 million deals, $2 million deals, I mean, Lord knows what Arch Manning got. Hopefully, with his name and his respect and his he didn't take anything, but he did go to Texas. I mean,
which to me, that's still such an odd choice.
I don't get Texas. I would have got it if he would have went to Alabama. I would have got that. That would have made sense. Georgia would have made sense. Ole Miss would have made sense.
Well, I mean, and honestly, Oklahoma would have made sense.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much with the coaching change, but it just Texas was just such an odd pick. But I like what Neil had to say about it. I mean, they understand. It sounds like West Virginia is trying to
at least be competitive with it.
Rein it in a little bit. Yeah. Like make money, but don't be crazy about it. I'd like to know more about his fifth quarter program. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit.
Yeah.
And see exactly what they're hitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Now next he talks about the Pitt rivalry.
I wasn't there when the initial contract was signed to play Pitt. Shane Lyons, our athletic director, he asked me about the continuation of the series, which we'll do later in the decade, and I was for it. It's really important for us to play regional rivalries. The backyard brawl be my first
30 minutes away
part
from
of it.
Each other. It should have never
Our
stopped.
fan base is extremely passionate about that game, and so it's a game that I would be in favor of playing each year. And so I think it's a great kickoff for college football. We're not playing on so-called week 0, but we're the premier Power 5 game versus Power 5 opponent on Thursday night. And our guys are excited. It's been a great carrot for our guys as we've gone through winter, through spring ball, now through summer
September
workouts.
September 1st on ESPN at 7:30.
And we've got not only a game to look forward to, but it's a rivalry game that's going to be in prime time.
Well, and that's the thing. Like we said earlier, you got to win one of those two games.
You have to.
And the fact of it is both of them are going to be Thursday night games. that the whole freaking world's going to be watching.
Exactly.
I mean, you're going to be at the Virginia Tech game, so I'm excited about that. But, both of them being on the road just it sucks.
It really does. I mean, it really does. I mean, but I hate to harp on it, but they got to find a way to win one, at least one.
I absolutely agree with that. They've got to find a way to win one of those two games, and they're both bad breakdowns for West Virginia.
Yeah,
they're both 50-50 games, maybe 50-50.
I would say that Virginia Tech's more of a 50-50 game as opposed to the Pitt game. And the reason why I say this, I mean, Pitt's defensive line they're a bunch of monsters. And I hate to even say it this way, but if West Virginia's offensive line doesn't hold up, because Pat Narduzzi's going to keep his corners on an island. So if they can hold up, JT Daniels is going to have time to throw the ball. But if he takes more than 3 seconds to throw the football, he's been picking his ass up off the floor a lot that night.
Well, and the thing is West Virginia fans should know in that first game against the Panthers what kind of offensive line we're going to have for the year.
Yeah.
If they come in and they don't give up any sacks, everybody else in the Big 12 needs to
take
notice, because that's probably the best defensive line we're going to see. Preparation.
And we talked last year. I mean, North Carolina had one of the best offensive lines in the ACC last year, and look what Pitt did to Sam Howell. And you say you felt bad for Sam Howell because he got the shit beat out of him.
I felt bad for Sam Howell, man. He was running for his life.
Yeah.
I ain't never seen a kid take a beating like that.
And keep on getting up and keep on coming and daggone near winning the game.
That's why I think he could have an NFL future.
Absolutely.
Now, Neil moves on to talk about the travel within the Big 12, which I thought was an interesting topic.
The travel is not that big a deal. You're going to do 4 games, 4 away games, and at least a couple trips to Texas each year. Some years you're going to have 5 away games, but you're talking about the difference between a 2-hour flight and maybe a 2.5-hour flight. And we're going to leave on Friday afternoon, get there Friday evening. The only thing that's detrimental is sometimes if you play a night game on the road in Lubbock or in Fort Worth, then you're looking at a really early Sunday morning return. And so you've got to be careful how you handle that Sunday, Monday on the back end. Now, for an Olympic sports, it's a different story. But in football, it's not as big an issue as maybe what it gets talked about.
Now that's interesting to hear him talk about, because we've talked many times about that travel and how it impacts the players, and basically he's saying it really doesn't unless you're playing a late night game.
Yeah.
And then you're getting back, really late Sunday. So
yeah. I mean, he said what, a 2.5 hour flight at most. Yeah. Which really, if you think about it, it's really not that bad.
No, and that's something else that, the reason I thought that part of the press conference was interesting is because everybody's like talking about UCLA and USC joining the Big Ten. West Virginia's traveling as much as they will be to some degree. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. You hit a jet. I'm sure USC, UCLA. They probably they'll buy their own private jet and just come and go as they please, and it'll be the exact same way. It's not as big of a topic as I've thought it was in the past.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting because we've talked at length about this. The wear and tear on the athletes and things like that. But if you come to reality of it, I mean, a bus ride, 2.5 hour bus rides, the equivalent of that. I mean,
yeah. I mean, now lastly, he talks about the big boogeyman, the realignment in the Big 12.
Oh,
this was an interesting comment.
The good thing about it is I've got a lot of worries, a lot of concerns, but conference realignment's way down the list for me. Now, the guys that spoke first, it's probably a different story, right? But for us, it's, those decisions are not getting made by football coaches. Those decisions are getting made at a much higher level. I'll repeat, Kirk, what I said in our opening statement. I'm really excited about the direction of the Big 12 Conference. I think some things over the last few weeks have created a great opportunity for our league. Is from a West Virginia perspective, we're a little bit different maybe than some of the other schools that uniforms are up here. We've played in multiple leagues over the last 50 to 75 years. We've even been an independent. The one constant is that West Virginia football has always been successful and always figured out a way to make it work. And so from a long-term perspective, I have great faith that West Virginia football is going to be just fine. In the short term, I like the direction. I think we have some unique opportunities. I think the leadership of our conference has made some really good decisions with the additions, and I have strong belief that they will continue to do so.
Well, there you have it.
There you have it. Wow.
I thought that was an interesting comment just because we have talked a lot about realignment. And, the non-blue blood schools, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, teams like that, could be on the outside of Tier 1 looking in.
Exactly.
And, to hear him talk about, that they think West Virginia football is going to be okay, at the end of the day, being on the outside of the blue bloods looking in may not be the worst place to be.
Yeah, it makes me feel a little bit better too in terms of as West Virginia as a whole. It makes me feel a little bit better.
Well, and the truth of it all is this, and this is, I put out my video about the realignment and all that stuff. That was kind of satirical, me going through best case scenario, feel good scenario. But the truth of it is if you break it down and you have a Tier 1 and a Tier 2, it'll suck that we're not in the Tier 1 anymore and we're in the Tier 2.
Right.
But it's not like teams like Utah, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, North Carolina, Duke, who else can I name? It's not like Oregon, it's not like
Pitt.
Or Pitt. It's not like we're playing for national championships. That's the thing. It's not like we're competing for national championships. We like to think that we are just a little bit out or just a little bit out. But the truth of it is we're a lot out. Teams like Tennessee, they're a little bit out. Teams like Miami, they're a little bit out.
Right.
So when you start taking the rest of the blue bloods, Clemson, Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, wherever they end up, however that works out, that's your Tier 1.
Yeah.
And of course, there's going to be Tier 1 schools that don't deserve to be in Tier 1, but they're just going to get it by default.
Right.
And it may not be fair, but that's just the way it'll be.
Yeah, exactly.
But with a D2 schedule where we're playing the teams we're already playing, the schedule wouldn't look any different then than it does now. I can get down with that.
Yeah.
Competing for a D2 champion, a Tier 2 championship in D1, I could get down with that.
Yeah,
that's a legitimate goal that West Virginia and teams like that could actually shoot for.
And still be considered a national champion. I mean, depending on how everything shakes out. But with news, what they said out of the SEC, it looks more and more like the 4 super conference model is going to be probably the most serious contender of that, because the SEC chancellors have came out and said they don't want to go past 16 schools.
Well, so, I mean, then you'd be with the Big Ten and the SEC having 32 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Looks an awfully lot like the NFL.
Yep, I agree. I
mean, you take the Big 12, the ACC, and the Pac-12, and you have 32 more schools, and you let your Tier 1s play, let your Tier 2s play. Have 2 championships, 2 bowl games. Just do it all times 2.
Yeah,
the fans will love it just as much.
Yeah.
Sure,
absolutely.
we're not going to be making $100 million a year off TV contracts, but we'll be making enough money to keep the programs going, to keep feeding some of the smaller D2 schools that are cupcake games. And
yes,
it won't be so bad.
No.
And that's kind of where I've come to.
Yeah, I agree, because it's not going to be as bad as we think, because in reality, everybody's still going to make money because it's college football. College football is, without a doubt, the number one sport in the United States. We love it. Hell, we talk about it 24/7. So,
Well, guys, I'm Sam the Man. This is Marcus Dean. This was us breaking down West Virginia's Media Day. Neil Brown, some great comments. Guys, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I think we're almost at 900, man. We're on the door, and I think we actually hit a really big benchmark the other day. We're at almost 4,000 watch hours, which means once we hit 1,000 subscribers, we can monetize the channel, which would be awesome.
Woo-hoo.
So, yeah, be sure to watch some of our content. Guys, always leave us comments. We love comments, good or bad. And for the 304 podcast, guys, we're signing off. Everybody have a good day.
Peace.